As I mentioned when we started today, I talked a little bit about how we were kind of running this a little bit like a talk show format. We also said that we would have some important messages. So we're going to do a little pause in our programming, and we have a really important message for you. And the important message is about the boomer woman. And this is our song that should be playing right now. That's my cue to my AV crew over there. But the important message is actually coming to you from Stephen Reily, who is the CEO of Vibrant Nation. And we were really honored and proud to be partnering with Vibrant Nation on a poll that we recently did about what boomer women want from tech. And so Stephen is here to talk to you about the results of that poll and their implications for your business. So with that, I'm going to have Stephen come to the podium. It should be on. Is it on?
Is it on now?
Okay.
Is that on?
Yeah.
I can talk loud. Okay, well, good. And will this work if I'm not?
Yeah, or you can also use this.
I can do that. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to meet this in 5 minutes, but it's easy because one of the things that makes this easy is this organization of today actually is building really nicely. So I think some of the things I was going to say have already been said, which is good. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was life stage. And we heard a lot about that from AARP, which was really good. Vibrant Nation, the site I founded, is the leading online community for baby boomer women. And really what we see when we started the site is who was joining it. They told us whether they belonged and why they belonged. And they really joined, about 85% of our members join when they're 48 to 68. And so what we were learning is that actually constitutes a life stage by their own definition. And that, if you think about the Emilio Pardo's slide that showed the new, this new 20-year segment of life that's now been moved into the middle of life, not to the end of life. That's the life stage we're talking about at Vibrant Nation. Another thing, because I am, is this working? Because I don't actually happen to be a boomer woman myself, as you may have noticed. I think that's really made us strong because we're really listening to boomer women all the time. And so one of those things that happen is that because we're a real community, we really just listen to the community. Laurie talked about doing the same thing at Eons. They tell you who they are and what they care about. And what we know is that they want to connect with other women like them on issues that are unique to this stage of life. They are all on Facebook. And that's where they want to talk about a lot of other things. But when they want to talk about what's unique about managing a complicated relationship with their 27-year-old child or a daughter-in-law, that's not a conversation to have in a place where they're a friend of that person on Facebook. So we learn a lot by listening. We do a lot of surveys and research. As Sherry said, we did an exciting research project on consumer electronics and the boomer woman in preparation for the Silver Summit. And that's some of the information I'm going to talk about here. You've heard this already, but now we have it quantified. The tablet computer is the boomer must-have. It completely defines consumer electronics for this generation now. In our survey, we showed that boomer women are indexing in the tablet category 5 times what the Pew study showed was generally true in the population. So Pew study from late summer of 2011, so it's probably grown a little bit, but showed 8% penetration. The women who responded to our survey showed 40%. And we know it's growing in every single one of the women who don't have one want one. This is being viewed as the must-have accessory and useful device. And if you think about why, the stuff you've already heard, first of all, they have the income to buy this thing. You know, it's not a necessary item, and yet it's essential to them and they can afford it. They're on the go, they're traveling, so the service that it gives them, the mobility, is amazing. They are buying over half of all the books that are being sold in the country, so the ability to transfer their reading habits to a tablet, which makes it actually convenient for the first time, is tremendous. They are emailing. They will be the emailing generation forever. I'm going to talk about texting, but that's what they're doing. They're also playing games. So they're also buying e-readers at enormous quantities. 33% in our survey showed they already owned an e-reader. 66% of those, so 2/3 of them, own Kindles. Kindles are really nailing this segment, and I think we're going to see the Kindle and the iPad become both together actually essential items for the boomer reader and the boomer woman. This also illustrates something I'm going to talk about, is that Boomers are becoming earlier adopters because it is younger to be 50 than it was 10 years ago. I started using email professionally in the very early 90s. So someone who is 50 today has used technology in the workplace every single day of her life for 20 years now. She is not a technophobe. It is an essential part of her life. So remember, this will continue to grow every month, every year as these women age. The most common age in America right now is 51. That means there are more Americans age 51 than any other age. That sometimes helps you think of what the baby boom actually means, because it means that she is an earlier adopter than you can probably imagine. Let's talk about apps. You know, if she has smartphones, we found that almost half of them have downloaded more than 10 apps in the last year. I feel confident. Only 2 or 3 years ago when I started our site, ad agencies and brands were still asking me, is this woman really online? You know, she is so online that she is really ahead of, in fact, where I have time to engage in terms of downloading apps. Again, she's becoming an early adopter every year. We ask them, of the ones who own smartphones, what they're doing with them. If you look at a third are actually using QR codes. I just figured out how to do that with her smartphone. They've moved beyond Blockbuster. They're downloading movies on Netflix and other streaming sites. And they're using iTunes. They are over old technology. They are going to be over old technology for the next 20 years, and you better start paying attention to it. They are highly adaptable. QR codes, that penetration is extremely high because it's a very useful technology to them. This woman is adapting in all kinds of ways. She's the key decision maker for up to 4 generations of her own family's life, for healthcare decision making, for purchases. She's got boomerang children living at home. She's looking after her parents as they age, and she's making using technology to make an enormous number of important purchase decisions. We asked them, in fact, and it's an illustration of how adaptable they are, we asked how they communicate with their children and their parents, and they use entirely different ways. They're now texting with their kids, not a surprise, and they're emailing with their parents. This woman can't afford to use just one. Her kids can text only. She has to use email for her parents, and she's going to keep using that and texting for her kids. So she's going to keep using more technologies as she ages, while you see other demographics actually become more focused in the way they do it. She's also willing to pay more. She's paying a lot of money in consumer electronics already, and she's going to pay more as time goes on. She's interested in better screens, better cameras, faster and larger keyboards. I know my important message is running out of time here, so I just want to end. We've heard about Apple, and I just want to say that we didn't get the image, but if you look at Apple, one of the things they're doing so well, you really have to pay to get away from stock imagery. Karen talked about it. There are about 2 images that look realistic of what it means to be a 55-year-old woman in the universe of stock imagery right now, and you've seen them multiple times already. There is nothing that accurately reflects what it means to be in your 50s in the world of stock imagery. Apple does it in a beautiful way, and if you look at the ad I was going to show, it shows people using the iPad to learn, as you heard about from Emilio Pardo, no age-related language at all, but you can see the hands. Half of the 8 sets of hands are clearly people who are over 40. That doesn't send a negative message to anybody, but it sends an extremely positive message to the people who are in fact buying the product. And then the commercial ends not on a teen or a cool technology user, it ends on a child, a 9 or 10-year-old, and it reflects the hope for the future that every generation feels. Apple gets this in part because Steve Jobs was a boomer, and one of the under-recognized successes of Steve Jobs' career is that his products were always meaningful and useful to people of his own generation. We thought about how hip they were for 20-somethings, but anyone who goes into an Apple store sees that it's a safe place for a 16-year-old and an 80-year-old. And there are very few companies. It's so important to talk about Apple because very few are doing it this well. I'm going to be around all day. We're going to have my book at lunchtime. Happy to send copies to later. And thank you for letting me be here. We'll move on.